There is something deeply transformative that occurs when your intuition begins to truly wake up. Carl Jung described him as the moment when the self, that deepest center of your being, begins to communicate directly with you, without the need for your rational ego to every step. It is as if a silent but clear voice emerged from the depths of your unconscious, offering you a wisdom that transcends logical thinking. You no longer need to analyze each situation until exhaustion. Simply know what is correct for you, and that certainty is accompanied by an inner peace that you did not know before. This intuitive awakening marks the beginning of what Jung called the individual process, that sacred path to becoming who you really are. Your psyche begins to operate from a more authentic place, where transcendent function, that ability to unite conscious and unconscious, is naturally activated. Decisions are no longer born from the rational mind, but from a deeper integration between your conscious wisdom and the messages that emerge from your unconscious. It is as if you had found an internal GPS that guides you towards your most authentic truth, even when the road is not completely clear for your conscious mind. What previously generated anxiety, that compulsive need to understand and control every aspect of your life, begins to transform into a serene trust. Jung understood that when the person develops this connection with his self, he no longer needs constant external approval to validate what he feels. Your intuition becomes your internal compass, and although others do not understand your decisions, you know in the deepest of your being that you are following the right path. This is true psychological autonomy, when your soul begins to direct your life, not your scared ego. Synchronicity, those significant coincidences that Jung studied so much, begins to manifest himself more frequently in your life. It is as if the universe conspires to confirm that you are in tune with something bigger than yourself. The symbols in your dreams become clearer, the signs in your most obvious daily life, and that feeling of being in the flow becomes your natural state. You no longer fight against the current of life. You have learned to navigate with the wisdom of your soul as a guide. When your mature intuition, you discover a truth that Jung knew deeply. The path to individuation is rarely the most comfortable or convenient. Yourself, that totality you are looking for, is not interested in your superficial comfort, but in your authentic growth. The decisions that resonate with your deepest truth may seem irrational from the perspective of your ego, but carry the wisdom of your soul. It is as if a wisest part of you knew exactly what you need to evolve, even when your conscious mind resists change. Jung talked about enantiodromia, that trend of the psyche to transform into its opposite when something becomes too extreme. Perhaps you have lived for years only logic, and now your psyche asks you to trust the irrational in the intuitive, in what cannot be completely explained. This is not a regression, but an evolution towards a more complete way of making decisions. Your intuition takes you by paths that your ego would never have chosen, but that they are exactly what your soul needs to grow and expand towards its maximum potential. The integration of your shadow, those parts of you that you have repressed or denied, also plays a crucial role in this process. Maybe you were always the sensible and practiced person, but now your intuition asks you to hide your most spontaneous, more adventurous, more authentic side. Jung understood that to be truly complete, we must embrace both our light and our darkness, both our rationality and our intuition. The decisions that bother you can be precisely those that are asking you to integrate aspects of yourself that you have kept in the shadows. Your energy perception becomes more refined, and you start making decisions based not only on what you think, but what you feel at body and energy level. Jung knew that the body is an extraordinary receptor of unconscious information. When something is not aligned with your deepest truth, your body knows it before your mind. This somatic wisdom becomes a reliable guide, even when conventional logic defies. You learn to honor those energy contractions and expansions as valid messages from your deepest psyche. There is a fascinating phenomenon that Jung observed in people who had developed a deep connection with their unconscious, the ability to perceive what is about to manifest before becoming visible in the outside world. It is not about supernatural powers, but a refined sensitivity towards the subtle patterns and rhythms of life. Your psyche, when aligned with the self, begins to capture the invisible waves that precede the manifest events. It is as if you had developed psychic antennas that detect movements in the energy field before they materialize in physical reality. Jung understood that the unconscious is not limited by linear time as our conscious mind is. When you connect deeply with this dimension of your psyche, you begin to access information that transcends the present moment. It is not that you predict the future, but you perceive the seeds of what is being taken into the invisible. Your body becomes a sensitive receiver of these premonitory waves, an inexplicable tension before a difficult conversation, a sense of expansion before an opportunity, a subtle restlessness before an important change. This capacity for sensory anticipation makes you more aware of the symbols that appear in your daily life. Jung knew that the unconscious communicates through symbols, and when your intuition is awake, you begin to read these messages more clearly. A recurring dream, a song that appears repeatedly, an animal that crosses your path at significant moments. All these become pieces of a puzzle larger than your soul is putting together. Your perception expands beyond the obvious towards the symbolic and the significant. The transcendent function, that ability to unite opposites that Jung considered fundamental for individuation, is activated naturally when you develop this anticipatory sensitivity. You start navigating life from a place that integrates both rational and intuitive information, both visible and invisible. This is not a regression towards magical thinking, but an evolution towards a more complete way of perceiving reality. Your mature psyche learns to honor both concrete data and subtle sensations, creating a more comprehensive and wise form of knowledge. Jung revolutionized our understanding of the psyche by recognizing that the body is not simply a physical vehicle, but an extraordinary receptor of unconscious wisdom. When your intuition truly develops, you discover that your body becomes your personal oracle, telling you truths that your rational mind has not yet prosecuted. Each tension, each relaxation, each expansion or contraction carries valuable information about your alignment with your deepest truth. It is as if yourself had found in your body the perfect channel to communicate with you directly and without filters. This bodily wisdom transcends the simple emotional reaction. It is a sophisticated form of knowledge that Jung associated with the feeling function, not sentimentalism, but a refined ability to evaluate the value and authenticity of experiences. Your body develops its own language, the chest that expands in the presence of authentic people, the stomach that contracts in toxic situations, the sensation of lightness when you are in your right path, or that inexplicable heaviness when you move away from your truth. These are not random reactions, but precise messages of your deepest psyche. The integration of your shadow is also reflected in this body wisdom. Jung understood that what we repress does not disappear, but is housed in our body and in our unconscious. When you start honoring the signs of your body, you also begin to integrate aspects of yourself that you had denied. Maybe you always ignored your need for loneliness, but now your body asks for rest when you are socially overstimulated. Or maybe you always repressed your need for creative expression, but now you feel a physical concern when you don't honor that part of yourself. Your body becomes your personal sanctuary, the place where your soul lives and expresses. Jung knew that individuation is not only a mental process, but an integral transformation that involves your whole being. When you learn to listen and honor the signs of your body, you establish direct communication with yourself. You no longer need to look for external validation to know if something is correct for you. Your body tells you with clarity that no external opinion can match. This is true autonomy, when your own being becomes your most reliable guide. There is a moment in the process of individuation that Jung described as the deepest encounter with the self, when you no longer need dramatic external signals to feel connected with something bigger than yourself. Your relationship with the sacred, with the invisible, with that transcendent dimension of existence becomes intimate and personal. You no longer look for God, the universe, or your interior wisdom in external temples or in other people's voices. You have found them in the silence of your own heart. This is perhaps the deepest transformation, when the divine ceases to be something that you are looking for out there and becomes something that you recognize here inside. Jung understood that true spirituality is not noisy or constantly needs to prove itself. When your connection with the invisible mature becomes silent, subtle, but unwavering. It is like an underground river that feeds your entire existence without being announced. The void moments, which previously terrified you, now become sacred spaces where you find a presence that cannot be named, but is more real than anything, tangible. In that silence, your soul breathes and expands towards its true nature. Synchronicity becomes your natural language with the invisible. Jung knew that when we are aligned with ourself, life begins to orchestrate in ways that transcend chance. You do not need to force things to happen. You trust the intelligent flow of existence. The doors open when it is the right time. The right people appear when you need them. The opportunities are presented when you are prepared to receive them. This is not passivity, but a mature way to collaborate with the deepest forces of life. Your relationship with the mystery is completely transformed. Where before there was anxiety not to know, now there is a serene reverence for the unknown. Jung understood that individuation leads us to a place where we can sustain the tension of opposites, knowledge and ignorance, control and surrender, light and dark, without the need to solve it prematurely. You become a silent guardian of your own inner flame, knowing that this light does not need to be understood by others to be real. In this spiritual maturity, you find a source of strength that is both yours and universal, both personal and transcendent. These 5 signs that we have explored are not simple psychological curiosities, but deep markers of your awakening towards a more authentic way of existing. Carl Jung taught us that powerful intuition is not a mystical gift reserved for a few, but the natural result of the individual process, that sacred path to becoming who you really are. When your ego learns to collaborate with yourself, when you integrate your shadow and honor the wisdom of your unconscious, your intuition becomes the most reliable compass to navigate the complexity of modern life. Remember that developing a powerful intuition does not mean abandoning reason, but integrating it with a deeper form of knowledge. It is the marriage between your conscious mind and your unconscious wisdom, between what you can explain and what you simply know. This is the true gift of individuation, a life lived from the entire being, not only from the expectations of your ego or the demands of the outside world. Which of these 5 signs resonates more deeply with you at this time in your day? Have you noticed how your body has become your most reliable guide? Or perhaps you have experienced that sensory anticipation that transcends logic? Share in the comments your experience with intuitive awakening. Your story not only matters, but it can be the light that another search engine needs to recognize its own path to individuation. If this content has touched something deep in you, if you feel that you belong to that tribe of deep thinkers that are no longer satisfied with superficial responses, then this channel is your home. Subscribe in the name of the channel, activate notifications, and join our community of souls that have decided to live since their most authentic truth. Like this video if you have served you as a mirror to recognize your own intuitive awakening. Remember, your intuition is not a weakness in a world that privileges logic. It is your most authentic superpower. Trust it, cultivate it, and allow you to guide you to the extraordinary life that your soul came to live. Until next time, and never forget that your inner light is exactly what the world needs.